everybody. This is Tom Tittermary back for another episode of Zero Trusts Given. Today we have a super special guest, and I'm going to introduce him for a second. First, I want to introduce Tom Gianelos, my wonderful co-host who's in this game with me around this time. Tom, say hi.
Hey, everybody.
Tommy G, that's right. So today we have a super special guest. This person has been referenced in other episodes. He's one of my favorite people to talk to on this topic, and I had to share him with everybody in the listening audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conrad Maiorino. Conrad, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Tom. That's a very nice introduction there. Undeserved, I kind of say, because we're just doing our job. But I'm Conrad Maiorino. I work for Zscaler as the C on Tom's team for MilDap.
Yeah, so Conrad, I kind of referenced this earlier, right? So Teddy Roosevelt was famous for saying, all credit goes to the man in the arena. Conrad's the man in the arena, right? Like, he's out there having individual conversations with the MilDap that he covers, trying to make meaningful impact around this topic of zero trust. So he is in the weeds, he's in the console, he's looking at policy, he's trying to figure out how he could bring more and better security out to the warfighter, specifically in the context of the zero trust conversation. So Conrad, what have you been working on lately? We'll have to obfuscate out a little bit about the specifics of what you've been working on. Tell me a little bit how you are working to bring, higher levels of security and zero trust to the warfighter and the MilDap that you're working through. And then, by the way, pivot off of that and tell us, all right, well, why? What gets you up in the morning? What gets you put on this task?
So first I want to say, you said the arena, so now my new call sign is going to be Spartacus. That's what I say first and foremost.
From this point, yeah.
That being said, thanks, Tom. What I really what wakes me up in the morning, not what keeps me up at night, is the technology that I'm able to provide now. And my path to Zscaler was very crazy. I was actually working for a different company. I was visiting a customer in Dissipac, and they asked me, what's the difference between your current security and the way you do it versus Zscaler? And my exact response was verbatim is, who's Zscaler? I know how to spell it. I never heard of these guys before. After I did all my research, 2 weeks later, I called everyone I could, and I got a job here because I knew this was the future. I really understood that this was the future. But what I also knew is that it was going to be a Herculean effort to take what was atrophy of the mind and the belief and change the legacy mindset of how we do how things are done the old way into this new way. And I was up for the challenge.
Yeah, so I mean, in your old role, we won't mention the individual vendor you were with, right? But you spent easily over a decade in the industry building, which at the time was probably the best way to put these different structures together in order to provide security, right? You build a big wall around the castle and a moat around the castle, and you make sure that you're checking IDs on the way in and everything like that. What was it specifically that you saw when you did that 2 weeks worth of research from Zscaler that really made it click for you? Because I think the process that you went through to come to that might also hit some of the listeners on the phone. What were some of you came from, there wasn't a better expert relative to a decent number of the DoD on how to build those, I don't want to call them legacy infrastructures, but those castle and moat style infrastructures. When you saw Zscaler, what really made it click for you? And then how do you pass that information? How do you communicate that over to customers you work with now?